Hi, long time no see. Come take a look at my wood shop. So you might notice that things look a little bit different in here. I am no longer in the basement workshop. I now have a 2-car detached garage wood shop, and it's a massive upgrade. So sadly, I had to go through some tough personal things to get to this place, and I had to relocate to a place that I'm not super happy to be living in. I'm trying to just focus on the positive, and the positive is that I now have a beautiful and much larger workspace that is so far amazing. So I want to give you guys a little tour of my workshop. All right, so over here I have kind of like my finish sanding area. So I have my Festool orbital sander and dust extractor. I have a little bench here, and then I have my wall control hanging on this wall, which I love so much. It's so handy having things just at arm's reach, and you can see everything and you know exactly where your kind of commonly used tools are. So I love this wall control. I have a little bit more back here. This one is like a little bit annoying because I have to like dance around my scroll saw to get to it. I may move it eventually, but for now I just put it up here. And then I have my scroll saw. I put it by the window for some nice natural light. And then it's a 2-car garage, so I have 2 garage doors. Right now only one is functioning, and that's perfectly okay. But it's such a luxury to not have to carry wood into the basement anymore. All right, now over here we have the beloved CNC. So I actually just got this set up in New York, and then I basically had to immediately take it apart to move it cross country. So finally it's in its permanent home. I had to disassemble my whole bench that I worked so hard to build, but fortunately I was able to move everything without any damage. This is what I was actually the most nervous about moving, but fortunately it arrived safely. So I have my CNC here in this corner. I made it so that I had space to walk all the way around it on all 4 sides, which was something that I definitely felt would be useful when I had it up against the wall in my basement. So I did that. I have all my storage underneath. It's kind of messy right now. I'm basically just sticking to pretty simple stuff as I have been. But in 2025, I'm definitely going to put a lot of miles on this machine because 2024 has been a pretty slow business year, especially the second half. So I really have to turn things around in 2025, and this is going to be the workhorse. So fingers crossed. All right, friends, now we move to the sanding department. So I have my beloved drum sander. I was also really nervous about moving this because it's 400 pounds, but thank God to the movers who somehow managed to get it out of the basement. I have no idea how they did it. I was just standing aside and saying a prayer. So thank God to them. And then I have back here another small bench, and I have one of my very first woodworking purchases was this Ryobi belt sander, and it's an absolute beast. It's amazing. I love it so much. And then I just have like my little DIY dust collection here. And then back in the corner, I have my dust collection, which connects to my CNC and then these sanders as well. Things ended up being a little bit snuggled up over here so that I could use that same dust collector for multiple things and just be able to move the hoses around. But for now, it's working out pretty well. And for the most part, I was able to set it all up using all of the hoses and everything for my dust collector that I already had, which is good because this whole venture has cost me a lot of money, and it wasn't really something that I was like financially 100% prepared to do. But you know, sometimes life throws you a curveball and you just have to make it work. So that's where we're at. So over here we have the saws. I don't have a table saw, so my Craig track saw serves that purpose, and it's great. This was a good Facebook Marketplace find, which came with the whole entire setup. It was a pretty good deal. And then I have my miter saw here with the hood. I've talked a lot about this hood and how annoying it is. Right now I don't have it connected to my dust collector, so I basically just let all the dust gather inside of this, and then eventually it falls out the bottom. And that's probably why this thing doesn't perform so well, because the weight of the dust is just like pulling it backwards and just stressing it out massively. But for now it works, and later on I can connect it to my dust collector. So these are the saws. Okay, the unsung hero of this new garage workspace is this Bora wood rack storage place, which I can finally put it on a wall. And so all of my wood is nicely displayed here. It's pretty full right now. I'm sure it looks really organized for you, but for me, it could be even more organized. So I'll definitely be working on that. And then I have some nice space, which just has some junk. There's a lot of stuff that's still kind of just sitting around, but I'll have a nice empty space underneath for extra like storage or whatever I want to use it for. And then I also was able to move these like rolling wire shelves, which I had in my basement. Right now they just have a bunch of random stuff on it, but this is a good extra like storage space that I can roll it around my shop if needed. Okay, and then the final thing to show is this center part of my workshop, which has my workbenches. So I had these worktops, a friend gave them to me, which was very nice. And then I just had to build legs for them. So I have a nice big long workbench here in the center of my shop. The most exciting part, as you can see, I have some cabinets here, is that I can finally work with full sheets of plywood. So I'm like playing around, building things that I've never had a chance to. So I just built my first set of cabinets. This is going to make like a nice long desk slash like work area in my house. And that's where I'm going to do like my shipping and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to getting that finally set up. And so that's the shop tour, guys. I am definitely getting settled in this space. I've managed to fill it up pretty well. As I mentioned, I tried to move everything that I had so I wouldn't need to make a bunch of purchases once I got here. And I did that pretty well. I didn't really have to buy much other than like some 2x4s to make legs for my benches, which I didn't need in my basement. So I had to do that. There were a few challenges which I just want to mention in this video in case anyone is like thinking of upgrading to a garage or trying to figure out how to set up their space or whatever it is. So this is a detached garage and I am in the Midwest now. I was in New York before. New York is cold. The Midwest is definitely colder and we have that like just biting wind. And you know, when I was in my basement, I had the luxury of having that temperature controlled space from the heat of the house. And I don't have that here. And I really had to start from scratch with this infrastructure. So one of the first things that I had to do was insulate this whole garage. And I spent $750 to do it. And I did it myself. So that was just purely the cost of the insulation. That was a nightmare of a job that I never ever want to do again. But I'm so glad that I did it because it definitely made a huge difference. And without it, I wouldn't even be able to work in this space. So I insulated my garage doors, the ceiling, and all of the walls. And then I have two little heaters, which are actually doing a really nice job of keeping it pretty warm in here. So I'm happy for that because otherwise it was going to be a tough long winter. And of course winter is only just beginning and it's been relatively mild here. So let's see what January and February have to bring. The other thing I had to do infrastructure wise was a complete like electrical overhaul because this garage didn't really have anything going on. So I spent $4,500 to get a new electrical panel, all of my outlets around the shop, lighting, stuff like that. Especially with the CNC, you know, I had to make sure the electric was up to par because I have to have so many different things running at once and on separate circuits. So that was a huge investment. I knew it would be coming, and no matter where I ended up, I probably would have had to do a little bit of work there, but they did a very nice job with it. And overall, I guess it was a good investment and one that I couldn't avoid. So I just have to be happy with it. So those were kind of the infrastructure challenges, doing the insulation and just getting it ready. Now, related to the insulation, the second challenge is just adapting to this kind of non-climate controlled workspace. Of course, I have the heaters now, so I'm in control a little bit more, but initially when I didn't have anything going on in here, no insulation or anything, I had to make a lot of adjustments. My glue was just turning to like a chalky white and it wasn't working at all. My stain was getting messed up. The finishing was just a nightmare. So now I had to kind of adapt. And for the winter time, I'm just going to have to store a lot of stuff inside. I ended up having to do a little bit of my glue ups inside as well, which is kind of annoying having to always go back and forth. But I'm just trying to adapt. And once the weather gets nice again, then I'll be able to go back to what I'm used to and pretty much do everything exclusively out here. And the last challenge, which this one I wasn't expecting at all, but getting wood and supplies. So when I was in New York, I always shopped at Home Depot, and that just became my comfort zone, and that's what I did. The products that I made, like, it was just, I could get my consistent wood there, and that's just what I did. Now, I didn't love it. It was a nightmare. You have to dig through the wood, find something good. I had to carry it all into the basement, blah, blah, blah. It's just, it wasn't ideal. But when I came back here, I thought, okay, I'll just go to Home Depot at least to get started, because again, I need the consistency, because if people are buying something that they saw online, they expect it to look pretty much the same. So that's important for the kind of work that I do. Now, when I went to Home Depot, even though it was the same type of wood, just like the common pine, it looked so much different. And I don't know if it's just like, it must just be a regional thing, I guess. But I shed a lot of tears and I wasted a lot of money on wood that just didn't work for some reason. It didn't stain well. It just didn't work. I don't know what was up with it. But the good news is that after all of that, like, little battle, I have now found a local lumberyard to buy my wood from. And the most amazing part is that they deliver for free. So I can just get my wood dropped off at my garage door, hung on my beautiful wood rack, and life is pretty beautiful. So I think there are going to be a lot of aspects of running this little business here that are going to be so much more convenient than it was in New York. So I guess there's always a bright side. But yeah, so those are some challenges that I had to go through and just adjustments that I had to make to my process. Obviously, that's not mentioning the nightmare that it was to pack up a whole wood shop and move it. This is going to absolutely be the permanent resting place for my wood shop. No matter where my career takes me, this stuff will live here forever. Even if I don't live here, it will live here. So I'm thankful just to have it in a settled, secure place, and a place that I own, and it's all mine. So thank you for coming to check out my workshop. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe this will give you some ideas of how to set up your workspace. I don't know. I try to keep things pretty simple. I mean, I've been woodworking for about 4 years, so I've just accumulated things, and I've been able to invest in things that have been very useful to what I do specifically. So probably to other people this feels like a lot, but to me it feels very simple. But at any rate, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm going to do a much better job of keeping my channel updated in 2025. So stay tuned, because I have a lot of interesting videos planned.